So we're starting with text 7. Pull up the screen here. Jitatmana prasantasya paramatma samahita sitoshna sukadukeshu tatamana panamanayo. Synonyms. Jitatmana, of one who has conquered the mind. Prasantasya, one who has attained tranquility by such control over the mind. Paramatma, the supersoul. Samahita, reproached completely. Sita, in cold. Ushna, heat. Shuka, happiness. Dukeshu, and distress. Tata, also mana, in honor. Apamaneo, and dishonor. Translation. For one who has conquered the mind, the supersoul is already reached, and he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Purport. Actually, every living entity is intended to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. When the mind is misled by the external illusory energy, one becomes entangled in material activities. Therefore, as soon as one's mind is controlled through one of the yoga systems, one should be considered to have already reached the destination. One has to abide by superior dictation. When one's mind is fixed on the superior nature, one has no alternative but to follow the dictation of the Supreme. The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. The effect of controlling the mind is that one automatically follows the dictation of the Paramatma, or Supersoul. Because this transcendental position is at once achieved by one who is in Krishna consciousness, the devotee of the Lord is unaffected by the dualities of material existence, namely distress and happiness, cold and heat, etc. This stage is practical samadhi, or absorption in the Supreme. Text 8. Vijnana vijnana triptatma kutashto vijitendriya yutaiti uchate yogi samalokstra smakachana. Synonyms. Gyan, by acquired knowledge. Vijnan, by realized knowledge. Tripta, satisfied. Atma, the living entity. Kutashta, spiritually situated. Vijitendriya, sensually controlled. Yukta, competent for self-realization. Iti, thus. Uchate, it is said. Yogi, a mystic. Sama, equipoised. Lokstra, pebbles. Ashma, stone. Kanchana, gold. Translation. The person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Report. Book knowledge without realization of the Supreme is useless. This is stated as follows. Atasi Krishna namadi nabhavedgriya mindriya seva mukhe jivado swayameva svaratida. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality, and pastimes of Sri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu 1:2-34. Bhagavad-gītā is the science of Krishna consciousness. No one can become Krishna conscious simply by mundane scholarship. One must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is pure in pure consciousness. A Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna because he's satisfied with pure devotional service. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions, but by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. It is the realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he's surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold to others, are of no greater value than pebbles or stones. Okay, starting from text 9 now. Sudin mitrari udashina madhyasta dvesha bandushu sadushvapi cha papeshu samabudhir vishishyate. Synonyms. Sudit, to well-wishers by nature. Mritra, benefactors with affection. Ari, enemies. Udashina, neutrals between belligerents. Madhyasta, meditator or mediators between belligerents. Dveshya, the envious. Bandushu, and the relatives or well-wishers. Sadhushu, unto the pious api as well as cha and papeshu unto the sinners samabuddhi, having equal intelligence vishishite, is far advanced. Translation: a person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral mediators, the envious friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind. Go ahead.
610. Yoga yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi stitita ekaki yata chitatma nirashir aparigraha. Synonyms: yogi, a transcendentalist. Yunjita, must concentrate in Krishna consciousness. Satatam, constantly. Atmanam, himself, by body, mind, and self. Rahasi, in a secluded place. Stita, being situated. Ekaki, alone. Yata Chita Atma, always careful in mind. Nirashi, without being attracted by anything else. Aparigraha, free from the feeling of possessiveness. Translation: the transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Purport: Krishna is realized in different degrees as Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna consciousness means concisely to be always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. But those who are attached to the impersonal Brahman or the localized supersoul are also partially Krishna conscious, because the impersonal Brahman is the spiritual ray of Krishna and the supersoul is the all-pervading partial expansion of Krishna. Thus, the impersonalist and the mediator are also indirectly Krishna conscious. A directly Krishna conscious person is the topmost transcendentalist, because such a devotee knows what is meant by Brahman and Paramatma. His knowledge of the absolute truth is perfect, whereas the impersonalist and the meditative yogi are imperfectly Krishna conscious. Nevertheless, all these are instructed herewith to be constantly engaged in their particular pursuits so that they may come to the highest perfection sooner or later. The first business of a transcendentalist is to keep the mind always on Krishna. One should always think of Krishna and not forget him even for a moment. Concentration of the mind on the Supreme is called samadhi, or trance. In order to concentrate the mind, one should always remain in seclusion and avoid disturbance by external objects. He should be very careful to accept favorable and reject unfavorable conditions that affect his realization. And in perfect determination, he should not hanker after unnecessary material things that entangle him by feelings of possessiveness.
I guess I'll read a little bit here. That's a long purport. All these perfections and precautions are perfectly executed when one is directly in Krishna consciousness, because direct Krishna consciousness means self-abnegation, where there is very little chance for material possessiveness. Srila Rupa Goswami characterizes Krishna consciousness in this way: Anashaktasya vishayan yatarham upyanjita nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyamuchate prapanchit kataya buddhya hari sambandhe vastana mukshibi parityago vairagam falgu kartite. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation, end quote. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-255 and 6. A Krishna-conscious person knows well that everything belongs to Krishna, and thus he's always free from feelings of personal possession. As such, he has no hankering for anything on his personal account. He knows how to accept things in favor of Krishna consciousness and how to reject things unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. He's always aloof from material things because he's always transcendental, and he's always alone, having nothing to do with persons not in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi. Yeah, it just reminds me of one thing that my spiritual master said one time. Sometimes yogis in India, or like pseudo yogis in America even, they'll have this false renunciation attitude. If somebody tries to give me money, no, money is dirty. I'm not going to take money. And my guru said, you give me money, I'll grab it. I'll give it to Krishna. Because otherwise it's falgu renunciation. If something can be used in service of Krishna, you should use it in the service of Krishna, not for yourself. But if you neglect to use it in Krishna's service, that is false renunciation. Because everything can be used in Krishna's service. Why should you not use it in his service? Not that you renounce everything and not have anything to do with anything. How can you do that in the material world? How can you not, unless you actually utilize everything in Krishna consciousness, how can you be free from impurities? I remember Emerson said once, if you take a vow not to touch anything that's impure, or eat anything that's not good for you, or speak anything that's not, favorable, or associate with anyone who's negative, you'll stand still. You won't be able to do anything. But if you use everything in Krishna's service, Krishna indemnifies you of all the reactions, and you glide through the world like a lotus with like a water on a lotus leaf. You don't become wet. You don't become affected by anything in the material world. You're like in a bubble. You don't have to worry about anything. Krishna's protecting you, so you're totally fearless. And one who is actually doesn't think that he owns anything. He doesn't have to, he doesn't have to. He doesn't have any kind of material possessiveness, because he has this attitude of self-abnegation. What's there for me? I told you this before. I think when my spiritual master asked Prabhupada, what should I renounce everything? And Prabhupada started laughing. He says, what do you have to renounce? You don't have anything to renounce. So it really makes sense. You won't be in anxiety, and you won't have any kind of anxiety for your material possessions, because you don't own anything. So it's just immediately a great burden is taken away from people. We're watching this series. My wife and I are watching this series on HBO Max called the Succession, I think it's called. It stars, anyway, it's about these greedy guys. They're all billionaires. It's a family. It's kind of like a Game of Thrones thing, but they're always in anxiety, and they're always like backbiting and trying to get one over on the other ones, and mergers and acquisitions. And it's really good. It's really well written, but it's really pathetic too. But it really shows how much anxiety people are in when they follow that path of, I want to get as much as I can in this world, in this mind. It just creates such a anxiety-filled situation, because you want to protect what you have, you want to get more. There's no end to the anxieties and because you have to protect whatever is yours, and you're always striving for more. And if you're always hankering for more, and you're lamenting what you don't have, and how can you be peaceful in such a situation? It's impossible. So if we realize that we don't have anything, then all of our problems are solved. Self-abnegation. Nothing belongs to me, even my body, even my mind. And my mind doesn't belong to me. I should beat my mind with a shoe every morning as soon as I get up. You surrender to Krishna, and then at night you should go before you go to bed, you should beat it with a broom. That's what Bhaktisiddhanta said. So it's like you have to control your mind, and when your mind is controlled, and you realize that nothing, you're just like a sold out animal to Krishna, then what do you have to worry about? You're taken care of. So it's like the Bible verse. Consider the lilies of the field; they spin not, nor do they toil. But Solomon in all his glory cannot be compared to one of these flowers. And and similarly in the Bhagavatam, there's so many things that are said. What do you need for clothes? You just pick up some used clothing. You can sleep under a tree or in a cave. You don't need a pillow. Use your arms. You know, you don't need anything. And the reason Western society is so completely in anxiety is because they're always wanting more and more and more. And they think they can't be happy unless they have more. But actually, they're always in anxiety because they think that it belongs to them, and they're never satisfied with the amount of lusty desires that they have for accumulating more things. So the answer to all of the problems in the world is to be satisfied with what they have, or whatever Krishna gives us, and live simple living and high thinking, and with very little, bare minimums of possessions, and just depend on Krishna for everything. You could even like be a python, lay down in the middle of the road and let the food come to you, you know, if apples fall off the tree or whatever, you know. That's there's actually living entities that have done that before. And they're nice and big and fat. You know, there's a big fat python man sitting in the middle of the road. And Prahlad Maharaj came upon him, and he could tell he was a pure devotee. But, you know, he was living like that. And Krishna was satisfying all of his bodily demands. In fact, he was fat. So, you know, there's no need to, you know, Krishna will provide. He's providing for every living entity. He provides, you know, a little tiny grain of sugar for an ant, and he provides hundreds of pounds of food a day for an elephant. No problem. So, you know, don't be in anxiety, you know. There's this song by Devananda Pandit. He says, you got more than you need to fill your empty stomach. You got more than you need to fill to get your sleep at night. You got more than you need to get you by until tomorrow. You got more than you need. So why are you so uptight? That's one of the first songs he wrote back in the 80s. But go ahead and read text 11 and 12.
Sure. Shucha deshe pratishtapya stiram asanam atmana nati uchritam nati nicham kalajina kushotaram tatrakagram manakrtva yata chitendriya kriyam pavishyasane vijyad yogam atma vishuddhaye. Synonyms: Suchao, in a sanctified; deshe, land; pratisthapya, placing; stiram, firm; asanam, seat; atmana, his own; na, not; ati, to; uch tritam, high; na, nor; ati, to; nicham, low; chaila ajhina, of soft cloth or deerskin; kusha, and kusha grass; uttaram, covering; tatra, thereupon; eka agram, with one attention; mana, mind; kirtava, making; yata chitta, controlling the mind; indriya, senses; kriya, and activities; upavishya, sitting; asane, on the seat; yunjyat, should execute; yogam, yoga practice; atma, the heart; vishuddhaye, for clarifying. Translation: to practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point. Purport. Sacred place refers to the places of pilgrimage. In India, the yogis, the transcendentalists, or the devotees all leave home and reside in sacred places, such as Prayag, Mathura, Vrindavan, Rishikesh, and Hardwar, and in solitude practice yoga where the sacred rivers like the Yamuna and the Ganges flow. But often, this is not possible, especially for Westerners. The so-called yoga societies in big cities may be successful in earning material benefit, but they are not at all suitable for the actual practice of yoga. One who is not self-controlled and whose mind is not undisturbed cannot practice meditation. Therefore, in the Burhan Naradiya Purana, it is said that in Kali Yuga, the present yuga or age, when people in general are short-lived, slow in spiritual realization, and always disturbed by various anxieties, the best means of spiritual realization is the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Hare Nama, Hare Namayva Kevalam, Alu Naste Eva Eva Gatir Anyatha. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way.
Yeah, it's he talks about the different yoga studios. Yeah, there's this phenomenon in Krishna consciousness. A lot of yoga people that are attracted to yoga, they're also attracted to Krishna consciousness. So we don't want to alienate those people, but practically, it can be seen that, the only reason when people are going to yoga studios is pretty much to make their bodies fit so they can enjoy sex life. I don't understand the benefit of yoga because they're not really meditating. There are different systems of yoga for breathing exercise and posture, sitting postures, but it's mostly a bodily exercise. It has nothing to do with actually focusing the mind on the Supreme, which is the goal of yoga. So it's good that they're attracted to it. And I don't know what it is that attracts the yogis or the yoga enthusiasts in this present age, or in these days, to Krishna consciousness, but I'm glad they are. It was big in the 1970s, huge. Yoga started to be really huge, but Prabhupada, he's saying that the point is, like, even Arjuna said, I can't do this. It was too much for him. So what to speak of us? We're in some kind of yoga studio doing different exercises. How is that going? And they don't even teach you actually how to meditate on the soul, to reach a state of samadhi. How many people do you think have reached a state of samadhi in yoga studios in America? It's completely ridiculous. But I don't want to say that out loud to them because, then they would be offended. So I always try to minimize my kind of opinion of different things because I get in trouble. I really have to watch myself because there's so many conspiracy theories and so many wackadoodle misinformation outlets, especially during the pandemic, that have been overrunning society like a meme, throughout society. And I get so tired of it. But I have to really remember that Krishna has a different way of dealing with these people. If you take Krishna's point of view and treat people the way Krishna would want them to be treated, the golden rule is treat others as you would want to be treated. But, that's not even good enough. The real person who's actually dealing with people in the correct way is Krishna, not us. We don't know anything. Well, how do we know? We don't know how to act. I'm just a Buddha. I've been raised, with, in the late 60s and 70s, blue jeans, suicide, and LSD, what do I know? I don't know how to act, but Krishna knows how to treat everybody in a proper way. So before we act and react to different things that are happening in the world, this is what I'm kind of learning today because I had some run-ins in Facebook. But, you have to think of what would benefit the person. How would Krishna treat this person instead of our own, reactive way of dealing with things, and especially if it's in an envious way, you're thinking you're so much better just because you're a devotee. Krishna hates that. He'll smash you so hard if you do that. But anyway, we're talking about yoga here. Text 13 and 14. Samam kaya shiram grivam darayan achalam stira samprekshya nasikagram viswam Śikṣāṣtaka valokayan prasanat tatma vigata bir brahmachari vate stita mana samyamya machchito yukta asit matpara. Synonyms: samam, straight, kaya, body, shira, head, grivam, and neck, darayan, holding, achalam, unmoving, stira, still, sampreksha, looking, anasika, of the nose, agram, at the tip, swam, own, disha, on all sides, cha, also, analokyan, not looking, prashanta, unagitated, atma, mind, vigata, be, devoid of fear, brahmachari, vrate, in the vow of celibacy, Shtita, situated, mana, mind, samyamya, completely subduing, mat upon me, Krishna, Chitta, concentrating the mind, Yukta, the actual yogi, Asita should sit, mat me, para, the ultimate goal. Translation: one should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. You can, oh, geez, that's a long one. Why don't you read up to up to the Sanskrit, and we'll take turns with the paragraphs.
Purport. The goal of life is to know Krishna, situated in the heart of every living being. Of every living being is Paramatma, the four-handed Vishnu form. The yoga process is practiced in order to discover and see this localized form of Vishnu and not for any other purpose. The localized Vishnu Murti is the plenary representation of Krishna dwelling within one's heart. One who has no program to realize this Vishnu Murti is uselessly engaged in mock yoga practice and is certainly wasting his time. Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and the Vishnu Murti situated in one's heart is the object of yoga practice. To realize this Vishnu Murti within the heart, one has to observe complete abstinence from sex life. Therefore, one has to leave home and live alone in a secluded place, remaining seated as mentioned above. One cannot enjoy sex life daily at home or elsewhere and attend a so-called yoga class and thus become a yogi. One has to practice controlling the mind and avoiding all kinds of sense gratification, of which sex life is the chief. In the rules of celibacy written by the great sage Yajnavalkya, it is said.
Okay, I'll read this part. I just wanted to point out, though, when I was saying, like sometimes I look down on things and I mock them or whatever, but what is the use of me? What is my opinion worth? Krishna, Srila Prabhupada doesn't mince words here. I mean, when you said that, when you said one who has no program to realize this Vishnu Murti is uselessly engaged in mock yoga practice and is certainly wasting his time. That's pretty heavy. But it's Krishna saying it, not me. I don't have to say anything. What is my opinion worth? And I just will offend people because it's mixed with my own ego. But if you let Krishna say it, he'll say whatever you need to say and put it in somebody else's mind what the actual truth is. And we're not really doing anything. Krishna we're just this instrument, and we're speaking his words in the Bhagavad-gītā. And if we're transparent mediums to Krishna, he'll do all the talking. We don't have to, put our own spin on it or anything, or emphasize this word or that, or bring up this point or that according to our little tiny teeny brains. Krishna has a brain. If we think we're more intelligent than Krishna, then we're pretty puffed up. So, Karmana Manasa Vacha Sarva Vastashu Sarvada Sarvatra Matuna Gratai Tyago Brahmacharyam Prachaksate. The vow of brahmacharya is meant to help one completely abstain from sex indulgence in work, words, and mind, and all times and under all circumstances and in all places, end quote. No one can perform correct yoga practice through sex indulgence. Brahmacharya is taught, therefore, from childhood when one has no knowledge of sex life. Children at the age of 5 are sent to the Gurukul, or the place of spiritual master, and the master trains up the young boys in the strict discipline of becoming brahmacharis. Without such practice, no one can make advancement in any yoga, whether it be Dhyāna-yoga or bhakti. One who, however, follows the rules and regulations of married life, having a sexual relationship with only his wife, and that also under regulation, is also called a brahmachari. Such a restrained householder brahmachari may be accepted in the bhakti school, but the Jnana and Dhyāna schools do not even admit householder brahmacharis. They require complete abstinence without compromise. In the bhakti school, a householder brahmachari is allowed to control sex life because the cult of bhakti yoga is so powerful that one automatically loses sexual attraction being engaged in the superior service of the Lord. I'll read the Sanskrit and you read the last two sentences, paragraphs, whatever. In the Bhagavad-gītā 5:22-59, it is said, Vishaya vinivartante nirhara sidena rasavargam rasopyasya param dvishtva vartate. Go ahead.
When others are forced to restrain themselves from sense gratification, a devotee of the Lord automatically refrains because of superior taste. Other than the devotee, no one has any information of that superior taste. Vigatavri. One cannot be fearless unless one is fully Krishna conscious and fully in Krishna consciousness. The conditioned soul is fearful due to his perverted memory, his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. The Bhagavatam 11.237 says, Bayam Sviti Yabhini Veshata Sharishad Apetasya Viparayayo Smriti. Krishna consciousness is the only basis for fearlessness. Therefore, perfect practice is possible for a person who is Krishna conscious. And since the ultimate goal of yoga practice is to see the Lord within, the Krishna conscious person is already the best of all yogis. The principles of the yoga system mentioned herein are different from those of the popular so-called yoga societies.
Okay, we're going to have to stop here. That part struck me when it said no one has any idea of the superior taste but a devotee. The devotee is the only one who knows. Therefore, it's stressed so much that the association of devotees is so powerful, it's so potent that even in personalists, like I was reading the Nectar Devotion talking about Shantaras, the devotion of neutrality. Do you know any examples of people who are in the mood of neutrality toward Krishna? That's the lowest stage of devotional service. It's not even devotional service. It's actually just a state. Anyway, the example was like the impersonal Brahman realization of some devotees, like the sons of Brahma, Kumars. They're like 4 or 5 year old kids that are actually millions of years old, and they wander throughout the universe. But they are Brahman realized, but they came across devotees and then they became Krishna conscious. They were actually, Krishna came upon them and they smelled the tulsi mixed with saffron at his lotus feet, and that awoke something in their minds and they became attracted to Krishna because of that. So it's really, really powerful. The association of devotees is very powerful, and therefore it's absolutely the first step in going beyond the stage of impersonal realization. Even if you're a yogi, and understand the Brahman, you have to go beyond that stage to the point of actually understanding Krishna as a person. You have no real personal realization on the Brahman platform, or the impersonal, just appreciating his greatness or whatever it is in the neutrality stage of neutrality. But service, that's the next stage. It actually, the perfection begins when you can actually serve Krishna, and then it just progresses from there, step by step. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. We'll see you. We'll see. Today's hump day, so Friday again.
Friday. Okay.
Haribo. Thank you.
You will.